Good morning, happy Friday, everybody. It is a end of a quite a crazy week for me, and I'm gonna. This will be um, a fairly short one here, um, for two reasons. One, I have some stuff going on after, but also the story is pretty straightforward. But it's a great story because it speaks to who David was and to um, more of the story between friendships of male friendship. I think we talk a lot about male female friendship or female friendship, but we barely talk about how men um, really see each other when it's a matter of support. We rarely see it, we rarely talk about it. Um, there are not many people talk about the relationship between David and Jonathan the correct way, first of all, much less the relationship between David and Mephibosheth. So first things first. For those of you who have seen my Facebook post, um, I want to clarify some things first, um, because what you're going to start seeing in the next coming week is um, a side of me that most people um, may not like, and I'm going to say that without any apology. Okay, some people may deem it as unnecessary. And the people that deem it as unnecessary are uninformed, and that's okay for you to be uninformed. But if you are uninformed, it's best that you be silent too. That'd be great. But if you do decide to chime in, understand that this is one thing I am going to do is put you in your place. I'm not tolerating what's going on right now, and I'm not tolerating people who think I should take a different route when they don't know if I've been taking a different route and the other route hasn't worked. Um, I will give you some rundown, not a whole lot, but let's just say there are people who are in power in an athletics division for my 14-year-old that think they have the authority to dictate how my son progresses through his athletic pathway and also for his future. And in my world, if you try to screw with my son's future, I'm going to screw with yours. I'm telling everybody straight up right now, I'm being a father. You mess with my child, you mess with me. And if you mess with my child in a manner that destroys his future, I'm going to make sure you don't have one. It's that simple. I'm going to make sure you don't have one, especially when you do it out of a place where you are power tripping. And if you're going to power trip using my kid, we're going to have some problems. This individual has problems, and he's going to have even more problems when I'm done with him. I just want people to be understood about that and don't come to this channel thinking, oh, you're a Christian. And no, I'm a father who believes in God, and I've been given a charge to take care of my children. These particular people have already messed with my oldest when he was going through, and I was not in a position where I took my responsibility up. I'm not going to let it happen twice. So I want people to be understood about that. And anybody coming to the comment section, friend or foe, any nonsense will not be tolerated. I want to make sure people understand that because I will be tackling this on every platform I possibly can. I don't want the questions unless you're asking me what happened. Do not come judgmentally and telling me what I should or shouldn't do. I will slap you across the fence, friend or foe. Especially if you claim to be friend and you still don't know who me and how I operate, we weren't friends. We were acquaintances. If you still don't know how I operate, you wasn't my friend. I just want to make that abundantly clear before anything else takes place on this from this day forward. Understand that, please. I will be doing a show directly about this on Savage Patriots this coming week on one of our off days. This does not include the other guys. This is not about them, but I run the channel, so I'm going to do it on my off day and tackle it there. I just want people to be clear. I have to make this abundantly clear now so I don't have to deal with this later. Perfect. Now, David and Mephibosheth. This story has, let me bring this back down. This story has really, for me, people look at it and they talk about the history and the location and the idea of what happened with Saul and all that stuff. But I'm looking at this from a different perspective, and this is the perspective I want us to read it from. And this is more of a conversation for men. Okay, I understand that there are a majority female in the audience, but this is, I want to speak specifically to males. I think what we end up doing some of the times is we fall into two different traps. The first trap we fall into is that a masculine relationship has to be a certain type of banter and no depth to it at all. Fishing or sports or something superficial, and that's it. And then you get the other extreme. That these are the two that most people. I'm not saying this is the only two that exist. Okay, um, these are just the two that are mostly popularized. The other one is that it's taken to extreme perversion and they class it in the homosexual, which is what a lot of the world likes to do with the story of David and Jonathan, and also with David and Mephibosheth, and also with Jesus and a few of his disciples. They love to take it to that extreme because it's a way to take a jab back at the person they hate most. But I want to paint this picture of what the actual balance is of what it takes to be friends, but not just friends, but brothers who aren't brothers. I have one, and people, you guys know him. It is Richie. Um, we've not been as close as we used to be because of distance and my schedule and his schedule. And I will take most of the blame for that because I rarely reach out, but I rarely reach out to anybody. Still not an excuse. Um, the other person that I have that type of connection and relationship with, of course, is Corey. Him and I talk all the time, and we have the type of relationship I think that men ought to have, an accountability one that's we have similar mindsets about spirituality and similar mindsets about family, but we can always keep each other in check. But we're open, but not to the point where I tell everything and he tells everything. But when there's things that I know I have to run through somebody who will keep me grounded to not behave a certain way, act a certain way, do a certain thing, he's there. Same thing with me, I'm there. If he needs to vent to somebody who isn't family like that, I'm there. I'm not saying I'm his only one, but I'm saying I'm one of few. And I think too many men don't have that, and they end up turning to many other things to fill that spot. So we're going to talk about these two from that perspective. Okay, now this is the story starts with Mephibosheth after the death of both Jonathan and Saul, his father. We're not talking about the relationship with Jonathan. I think we covered that last year, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was last year we covered Jonathan. And because of the close ties that Jonathan and David had, this is the end result now. Upon the death of Jonathan, Mephibosheth was leaving their place of origin, and an accident happened, and he's now crippled. Okay, so this is what you're finding with Mephibosheth. He is not a mobile man, and David is seeking someone to be kind to in the house of Jonathan. So that's where we're starting from in 2 Samuel chapter 9. Okay. Now David said, "Is there anyone still left who is of the house of Saul, that I may show kindness for Jonathan's sake?" And there was a servant of the house of Saul whose name was Ziba. And when they had called him to David, the king said to him, "Are you Ziba?" He said, "At your service." Then the king said, "Is there not still someone of the house of Saul to whom I may show kindness of God?" And Ziba said to the king, "There is still a son of Jonathan who is lame in the feet." So the king said to him, "Where is he?" And Ziba said to the king, indeed, he is in the house of Mekar, the son of Amiel in Lodebar. I want to stop right there because I'm not sure many people may know the idea of Lodebar. It is kind of like this place of nothing. It's of no concern, no consequence, forgotten. Okay. There are two different differentiations you can, or stories you can pick out of this. And one is the king going to the forgotten to bring them to glory. Kind of like the story of our walk with Christ. The king leaving his place to show kindness on behalf of, and boom, he finds someone in a place of no consequence. Then King David sent and brought him out of the house of Mechar, the son of Amiel, from Lodebar. Now, when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, had come to David, he fell on his face and prostrated himself. Then David said, Mephibosheth, and he said, here is his servant. So David said to him, do not fear, for I will surely show kindness for Jonathan your father's sake, and will restore to you all the land of Saul your grandfather, and you shall eat bread at my table continually. Now, if you still don't see certain similarities in bringing someone who is forgotten to the table of a king for the rest of their life, to how we are welcomed into a house by the king after being in a place of desolation and no consequence, I don't know how to help you there. But the other part of it is that it was not because of who Mephibosheth was, of his own consequence. It was because of someone else. You see, we are saved. Okay, good. We are saved, but it's not because we are saved because of us. We are saved through someone else, Jesus. And so when we look at it from that perspective, that's one story being told there. The other story being told is that the relationship that David had with Jonathan was so much of a life-altering one for David that when he was looking for one of the family of Jonathan to send help to and to show kindness, you notice the kind of kindness he was looking to offer to Jonathan's family. Let's go back up real quick and see what he said. He said, is there not still someone of the house of Saul to whom I may show the kindness of God? Not that he may just show kindness because, which tells me that David's relationship with both of these men were based in his respect for God. He was not trying to be this man just because, which is what a lot of male relationships are. Yeah, you and you because of you. And no, this is something coming from something else, which is why it can stay consistent, which is why it won't be manipulated, controlled, tainted by man's view of it. This is where I think most men do not get relationship from. They get relationship from, oh, we fish together. Okay, we golf together. We have similar interests. We went to school together. We went to college together. But none of it's based on their mutual respect and adoration for God, which makes it awful difficult for when things get bad for them to remain in the same place. Then he bowed himself and said, what is your servant that you should look upon such a dead dog as I? Now, looking at this viewpoint that Mephibosheth had of himself, I'm sure that a lot of it comes from the fact that he was lame, and not being able to do what he had witnessed his father doing and his grandfather doing might have been, he wasn't at the age to do it. But now you can't say he doesn't remember that his father and his grandfather did. Now he's injured and older, and he can't do that. And he's also looked down upon in the society because of his injury. You can understand why Mephibosheth looked at himself like this. It was, in his mind, this was his lot. There was no way he was going to be anything different than what he had seen himself as, which is a dog. And the king called to Ziba, Saul's servant, and said to him, I have given to your master's son all that belonged to Saul and to his house. You, therefore, and your sons and your servants shall work the land for him, and you shall bring in the harvest, that your master's son may have food to eat. But Mephibosheth, your master's son, shall eat bread at my table always. Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Now, mind you, he's setting servants to do something for Mephibosheth, and it wasn't even really for Mephibosheth. He is making Mephibosheth feel exactly like a king while eating as one of the king's people at the king's table. This is taking Mephibosheth from thinking that he was trash, worthless, to not just friend, but royalty at the king's table, and having the servant of his father be his servant until he expired. The story is so deep because it does herald a lot to our religious walk with God. It does. Then Ziba said to the king, according to all that my lord the king has commanded his servant, so will your servant do. As for Mephibosheth, said the king, he shall eat at my table like one of the king's sons. Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah, and all who dwelt in the house of Ziba were servants of Mephibosheth. So Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, for he ate continually at the king's table, and he was lame in both his feet. Now, I do not believe that that is accidental. This last line here, this is not accidental. He dwelt in Jerusalem, ate at the king's table, and they make sure to emphasize that he was lame in both his feet. Why would they say that? Why would they say that? Because they're also reminding you that Mephibosheth couldn't do for self. Mephibosheth couldn't do for self. And the king was doing for him. He saw himself a certain way, and the king took care of him. On one end, you're seeing the relationship we have before Christ. That's one example. But the other example is for men. And in case people wondering what the scripture reference is, it's 2 Samuel chapter 9. And this is what I mean. A lot of times, the male species, what I'll call them for now, the male species has been put into this category of having to be a type of stoic, stone cold, unemotional, uninvolved individual. And I'm not saying that's not part of a man's psyche, because we do, unlike the female psyche, whether people want to admit this or not, we have the ability to shut off emotions altogether and deal with something directly. And when I say emotions, I mean emotions that keep us from doing something. I mean entangling emotions. We have the ability to shut that off and do what we got to do. We have that ability. But I think some people take it to the extreme to where you have none at all to even participate in your children's lives and your spouse's life. You have no ability to connect on that level. I've known a few people like that. That is taking what you have and staying in one compartment, and that's not how it works. If you look at how David interacted with Jonathan, David still was able to go to war. David still ran a kingdom, but he was able to also be open enough to have that kind of relationship with Jonathan. We've forgotten that, males have. We don't, it's not healthy anymore. It's either one or the other, and it's not the right one. The majority of men today have relationships where they go, they drink, okay, and they go and they play sports, gay, and they go or they womanize, yeah, and that's man. Or you are taking care of you and your money, and the women are just consequential. Or a piece here and a piece there. That's it. Money is the goal, though. Success is the goal. That's the mark of man now. Or the complete opposite. And the mark of a man is to do whatever the woman says. Neither one of those is manhood. They are parts of being a man. They are not the whole of being a man. The whole of being a man is understanding when those parts are needed. When it is a time to shut off the communication and do what you got to do. When is it time to open communication and do what you got to do? And when it is a time to shut what you want off and do what they want to do. There is a time for all of that. And the man's job is to be able to manipulate his own being to fit each role under logic. Misapplying it is not manhood. Misapplying it is not manhood. When you look at David, okay, he had his share of misapplication of manhood. If it's one human that you can look at outside of Solomon that had his share of misapplication of manhood, it was David. David at times let himself go to the extreme on both. Of course, the consequence followed every time until he was able to become a master of the middle. And that master of the middle is what brought him to this spot of having Mephibosheth live in his home on behalf of his friend Jonathan. Man's mastery of what it takes to actually be masculine has to and always will go against what the world says. It will never match. Never in a million years will it ever match the world's idea of manhood. It can't. Because what the world sees as manhood isn't manhood. It may have, speckles of it. Hints. Doesn't match it. But the church, unfortunately, has become littered with the other men who aren't really men. If you look at the pastors today, okay, look at it. How many of them can you look at and say, that's a masculine man? Unfortunately, too, they don't even stray much to the extreme masculine. They stray to the extreme feminine side of masculinity. They stray all the way over there. Tights, hairdo, mannerisms. You get what I mean? And then the world has taken up the other side of the extreme masculinity of abuse, beating, no emotion whatsoever. Do not get this twisted. A man who is not dangerous isn't a man. Do understand this. David took lives. He was a man after God's own heart. David took lives in war with the sword, up close, personal, blood. That was David. Okay? Do not forget this. Many men who are godly men were capable of taking life. That they were not the kinds of men that said, I can't. They were the kinds of men, if that's what it's going to take for me to do something, it's going to happen. Don't put it past me to not be able to do that. That is part of who I am. Being a man, however, is knowing when. And knowing who to listen to know when. A dangerous man is not a man who cannot go there. A dangerous man is a man who can go there and doesn't. Those are the men you got to be really, really, really be afraid of. A man said, I could never do that. That's not a man. I'm telling you now, that's not a man. If in your mind you can't go there, come on, you are of no consequence, none. It humors me when I hear men that say they don't have that kind of a streak in them. I know mine is there. I know for a fact mine is there. Knowing how to temper that is the true mark of masculinity. There's going to come a time, because of how the world is today, where people might try to mess with something that you're supposed to protect. You're given stewardship, guardianship over something, your family. And there are going to be people who try to mess with that. You not being able or not willing to go to certain lengths to protect your family tells me a whole lot about if you're masculine or even male enough. Yet you see the side of David. Now, remember, I said David was a warrior. David took out Goliath, man. You'll forget that was the same David? Did we forget that this was the same kid that walked up to somebody easily a couple of feet taller than him? Pap, pap. Y'all forget it was that David? Same David. Same David. But was able to take that side of him. It's no longer ready. That's not the time for this. I need to find one of Jonathan's household, Saul's household, on behalf of Jonathan to show God's kindness to. Same man. The exact same man that took out Goliath can turn around and show kindness to a cripple who at the time saw himself as dog and society saw him as worthless, lived in a place of no consequence, and still showed him the kind of kindness that a father of deep heart can do. That is masculinity. That is masculinity. Not what the world sees, not what the world dictates. You remember in Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything under the sun, right? There's a time for everything: war, peace, love, hate, time to born, time to. There's a time for everything. If you're not capable to exist in one of those times, as a man, you're not a man. I'm going to say something that either upset major feminists or make people who are women, really women, understand something really good. A woman's trust in a man who can navigate both those times will have very little to fear. The man was built to be able to navigate both and to protect a woman so that she would not have to endure either. That's the man's job. A man's job is to create a space for women that they don't have to fear or worry about what is. They already have what they have to deal with based on the consequence of Eve. That's theirs to deal with. We can't step in the middle of that. But if a man cannot navigate between the peacetime and wartime, you ain't a man. If you can't see yourself participating in something that has to do with your safety or lack thereof to protect your family, I'm going to say it, you're trash. You're trash. You ain't a man. The navigation between the two is exactly what we're built to do. Why is it you think that you can see men with their little babies and he's as careful as can be. But then when that kid gets to be 18 and he's a boy and he's like twice his size, they can roughhouse and throw each other around the room. Navigation between the two. Or when the kid is bigger than him and he's stepping out of line, that the father, no matter how size, he can put the child in his place. Navigation between the two. The kid after a football game loses, but he's in a place where he cannot navigate that feeling. The father can easily step in and do one of two things: berate him, which is not manly, or two, say, "This is part of life, son. You have to learn how to handle this and move on. I understand you're mad about the loss, but losses happen. I feel for your loss. I get it. You probably blame us." And I had to have this conversation with Ethan, my 14-year-old, some time back. He hates losing, absolutely hates losing, because he sees himself as a team player. And when the team loses, he feels like he was almost majorly to blame. And I said, you can't view yourself like that. Then you're overly looking at yourself as the most important cog, and you're not. You're a team member. But secondarily, losing is a good thing to teach you something. It's a great way to humble you, especially if you're overly cocky. Great way to humble you. And that's how you take it, as a humbling experience, and learn from it, move on. Okay, so you shed one or two tears. Perfect. Now you're done. That's it. We don't need no more. You've allowed yourself to get to that point, but do not go any further past that, because then you're robbing yourself of the learning experience. Men do that. A woman, your chore during that time. Okay, you want to go hug your son and make sure he feels comforted. Yeah, 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 yeah. Even for you, this is where you have to understand this. Okay, if you trust your man, that is a point where he has to step in. He has to step in and do the job of training that boy to become a man. It's a seasonal thing. You felt it. Pain is there. Good. Mom hugged you. You got that out of the way. Now come back to reality. David had to understand and navigate that. Both David and Jonathan. Now remember, Jonathan died in war. Jonathan and his father died at a battle. He died doing man stuff. That's the type of dynamic that David had with Jonathan. It was a valuable relationship. They could feed off each other for both godly relationship as well as the world navigation relationship. And it was such a deep one that he had to extend this to even his offspring. He had to extend that thanks to his offspring, that gratefulness to the offspring of Jonathan. If in all of this, you guys, you females out there who have men in your life, I want to give you a bit of helpful advice. Just helpful advice. Domesticating your man will backfire. And when I say domesticating, I mean having him for just things. He's a servant at the house. That's it will backfire. I've seen that becoming the thing. Men on TV now are what? Errand boys, honey-do lists. They stay quiet. He needs to respect me. Hmm. Just a word of warning, that'll get you in trouble. It'll get you in trouble. And I don't mean with him, I just mean you'll end up, it'll backfire. Because there will come a time where you'll need him to be something that you have not trained him to be, and you didn't allow him to be, and he can't be that. And then what you gonna do? Nothing. You can't do anything. And men, do not allow yourself to be that. And I'm not saying to become tyrant. But there comes a time where you got to put your foot down. I mean, it's just how it is. That there is authority given to you, not by man, not by the government, by God. Now, if you remember correctly, I want you to understand it. Your desire will be to rule over your husband. I don't know if y'all caught that, but when it said that, it says, "I will greatly multiply your sorrows in childbirth. In pain, you're going to bring forth children, and your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you." In some translations, it shall, "You will want to rule over your husband, but he shall have dominion over you." I'm not saying that you won't want to be the head, but you can't be. The curse is for you to be subservient because you did that already and it didn't work out. And men, you gave up that authority and did that one time and it didn't work out. You see what I'm talking about? Today, however, we want to have it the exact way that caused the fall. You've heard people say the woman's the neck, man might be the head, but the woman's the neck. You've heard that one before? Tell me you haven't heard that the man might be the head, but I'm the neck. All right, Nick. What gets put on the chopping block? The head or the neck? I'm just, I'm just saying. The neck gets put on the chopping block. You ready for that? Do you want that responsibility too? So hold on. If you want to be the neck, if you want to be the neck, just make sure you're okay with being the one that gets severed. You're not okay with that now? Now it's different? Okay. All right. Be the neck. Go, hey, turn the head wherever you want. Understand though, if where you turn the head causes trouble for the rest of the body, the neck gonna pay for it. All right. Hey, it's your choice. I'm just saying you pick. But for the men, it is okay to rule your home. It is okay to be the head of your wife. The biggest linchpin in all of this is doing it God's way. No other way, God's way. You have to do it God's way. Women, get out the way. If you just let God work in your husband, let God work. That's not your job. You live the godly. You remember you said you might be saving your husband through your relationship with God, not with you telling your husband what to do. Your relationship with God could save an unbelieving husband. And what is your role as a wife? That's all I got to tell you. It never said that you change your role with an unbelieving husband. You still do your role. It still applies. That doesn't change. Because if you do trust God, then trust him. Just admit that you don't, though, if you don't. Men, we have to abide by the rules and the way God set us up to be. You have to be able to navigate both waters, both emotion and shutting it off. Peace, war, life bringing, life taking. If you ain't capable of both, you have not arrived at manhood yet. If you can't manipulate yourself to go to both extremes when the time is needed, you're not a man yet. David has been using examples of men for a long time, but they don't want to be actually like David. David learned from his mistakes and he made big ones, really big ones. You can't be a protector if if you can't do what it takes to protect. You can't be emotionally providing if you don't know what it means to be providing emotionally. The balance is delicate, but necessary. In any case, that's what I wanted you to go into the weekend with. Um, Monday will be a different program because I will be tackling something that might raise a few hairs of the people I'll be talking about. But as usual, you know me, don't care, be mad, stay mad. Truth hurts sometimes. And besides which, I do not owe any allegiance to the demonic religion of Islam. Okay, I don't. I don't have to care about your feelings. I simply don't have to. And I do not. I don't care what you believe. I don't care about your so-called God. I don't care about your prophet. They're all trash to me, and so I will talk about them as I feel fit because it's true. You may not like it, but hey, look at me not caring. So we're going to be talking about that on Monday. Um, I think some people are afraid to, but y'all know me. What you gonna do? Pray to Muhammad? No, well, I know that's not going to go anywhere, so I'm okay. Um, and so next week I'll be talking about that on Monday, and then possibly either Tuesday or Thursday we will talk about that thing on Savage Patriots about what's going on over here in Washington State. I'm leaving the poster up on my Facebook to try and get as much traction as I can locally for people to come and hear. And I'll be possibly trying to do a radio segment as well to get the airways fluctuated with it so they hear what's going to happen and what's happening and what will be coming down the pike. And anybody else who might have a complaint about these particular people can come and tell me about it. I already have one person that has information for me. So I'll be hoping to hear from them today. So that ought to be interesting indeed. So, again, Savage Patriots will be on today. We'll be covering that interview that Kamala Harris had with her boy on CNN. So we're talking about that. That thing was hilarious. Come, make sure. Hey, look, don't drink a whole lot of water before you show up to the Savage Patriots one today. Don't drink plenty of water. Make sure you use the bathroom too, because I have a suspicion you might be laughing till you pee. So just be careful. Don't come with a belly full of water. Use the bathroom before you. Just make sure you do it. Okay. Yes, Too Strong has already covered it. Look for the video coming this week. We've already recorded one. It should be dropping here soon. Okay. Oh, yes. Like I said, make sure you come empty stomached and use the bathroom beforehand. I'm giving you some advice, gold advice. Please, please. Man, please. In any case, we'll be there. And then Too Strong will be live tonight. We have a couple of topics we are trying to pick between. And so you'll be aware here soon enough. So either way, we will be on 5:30 my time, 8:30 Eastern. Just show up. Regardless of our topic, you should be showing up. You should like our stuff anyway. So just show up. So in the meantime, in between time, make sure you guys smash that like button on your way out. I normally don't ask, but I'm asking this time to get the algorithm back up and running. We've kind of hit a stagnation point. So if for those of you who like the content, want to push the content, please, that'd be one of the biggest things you can do. Smash it. Scrolling at the bottom, options to help the channel. Don't forget that on Sunday, the GoFundMe for my nephew will end. I'll give you an update of what we've been accomplished, but I don't want to leave it open for super long. I understand that, I think we've gotten to that place where we've seen what will happen and what will be helped and not helped. So I'm okay with that. And it'll be shutting down come Monday. The link is still up in my YouTube channel on community. I think it's still there, and it's up on my Facebook page. So if you can still if not, that's okay. But by Sunday, it'll be shut down. And then you can, if you still want to do something latently, you can do it through Cash App or PayPal. It won't be indefinite. Okay. So just so you know, but make sure you put that marker, whether it's for Straight Talk or for Kurt. He had like I said, a friend of ours went by to check and see what he could and couldn't do, where things are. And I was supposed to be talking to that friend either today or tomorrow to find out what exactly we can and what's still needed. So that's that. In any case, we'll catch you guys later today. Love you and mean it. Wisdom calls to you from the streets. So please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die,